And now we want to continue with our look back at September 11th, 2001, with a collection of interviews that we have gathered with Connecticut's past and present political leaders.
Fox Connecticut's Larry Perez sat down with the Governor Dannel Malloy, Congressman John Larson, Joe Courtney, and former Representative Rob Simmons.
For Connecticut's congressional delegation, the minutes after the attacks in New York became even more anxious in D.C. Congressman John Larson was walking outside on his way to the Capitol. Then Congressman Rob Simmons had just finished a speech to a veterans group and was in his office.
As I looked up toward where the office building was, people were filing out of the building. And then with that, we heard this incredible noise in this plume of smoke that was coming from the Pentagon.
And there was a rattling of the window behind me. And I turned and I looked out the 5th floor window and I could see smoke coming up over the buildings where the Pentagon was. Now I knew that we really had a serious problem.
Close to home, and experts now believe it would have gotten even closer as hijackers had turned Flight 93 around over Pennsylvania.
I said, I think we should probably leave. And as I said it, a police officer ran down the hall, striking the doors with his nightstick, saying, "Get out of the buildings, get out, everybody out."
Meanwhile, in Connecticut, then Stamford Mayor Dannel Malloy and his staff were assuming there would be more attacks. And with the Stamford train station adjacent to 95 and the world's largest trading floor at UBS, they were scrambling.
I can remember looking out my window and still seeing UBS security allow vehicles to pull up to the building, and finally called over there and told them to stop that.
That was how the day went for local and national leaders, a mix of training and preparation with a big dose of figuring out what to do on the fly, including how to deal with their personal emotions. Against the advice of Capitol Police, Larson and Simmons both joined dozens of lawmakers on the Capitol steps to address the country.
Democrat, Republican, House and Senate, and we all gathered on the steps of the Capitol and spontaneously broke into the singing of God Bless America. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
God bless America, my home, sweet home.
The days after would be with emotion. Stamford was home to 11 victims.
Personal belongings identified, tissue identified from some of our folks, and having to dispatch a police officer each time to a family to inform them of that. It was a trying time.
Congressman Joe Courtney was not yet in office in 2001, but says as a member of the Fire Caucus now, he sees the priority on training and preparation. From 2001 to 2009, Connecticut received more than $58 million in federal fire grants.
Everything from communication equipment, which was obviously a huge weakness in New York the day of the event, to dealing with new kinds of materials that are in building technology, really is something that first responders have to be really trained and capable in terms of dealing with.
Courtney says the country's emergency responders learned from 9/11 about how to better deal with emergencies. Simmons says Americans also learned how they deal with emergencies, and 10 years later, he can recall the second he realized it, arriving at Ground Zero with President Bush.
A hush went over this group, and then somebody began to chant, USA, USA. There was a feeling of unity and coming together, and that somehow we're going to get through this thing and go forward.
On special assignment, Larry Perez, Fox Connecticut News.